No, sorry, guys. I'm going to try and I'll come back.
Hello, and welcome to Canada Reads American Style. I'm Shauna, tonight's host and moderator of our Canada Reads 2020 finale recap. Please know that we are not affiliated with CBC's Canada Reads, and all of our opinions
I'm going to try and I'll come back.
are our own. Hello, and welcome to Canada Reads. Sorry, I need to do a little bit of technical difficulty there. Okay. Today, I'm going to have our participants introduce themselves and have them share how you can follow them on their social media accounts. Larissa.
Hi, I'm Larissa from Nova Scotia, Canada, and you can find me on Instagram at the.bookmom. The link is below, and that is just my personal Bookstagram account where I read and share what I'm reading and do shout outs to authors and reviews for friends and things like that. It's a lot of fun, and I hope you'll join me over there. That's also one of the ways I connected with these Canada Reads American Style ladies, and that has been a ton of fun as well. So I guess the only other place you can find me right now is here on their account.
All right, Sarah, tell us where we can find you.
I'm Sarah, and you can find me in rural Nova Scotia, Canada. Don't come find me in rural Nova Scotia, Canada, but you can find me on Instagram mainly. That's kind of my home base for social media. So it's at SareShears. So the link will be down below in the description box. It's a personal account, but I post mainly books, my crafts I like to work on. So a lot of needlework, baking, and the odd picture of my super cute boys. And I do have a YouTube channel. It's called Sarah Stitches, and I mainly talk about my my embroidery and my cross stitch projects, and a little bit of books and other my one attempt at crochet. I don't post there very often, so your best bet is Instagram.
Awesome. And Jolene, tell us where we can find you.
Thanks, Shauna. I'm Jolene, and I'm from St. Catharines, Ontario. You can find me on Bookstagram at Bookworm Adventure Girl, and I also have a website, which is where I review books and talk about food and a whole bunch of other stuff, travel, those kind of things. But it's mostly books, and that is at also bookwormadventuregirl.com. And I do have a Facebook page just started, and you'll be surprised to know that it's also bookwormadventure.com. So the links are all below, and we're good to have anybody join us.
Thank you, Jolene. And last but not least, who is this last person? I can't remember her name.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm Shauna's better half. Anyway, we are asking you to follow us, of course, on YouTube. So if you're watching this right now, we're on YouTube, so please subscribe. That would be wonderful. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, and it's Canada Reads American Style. And I just want to say it's been so much fun. We've only been doing Instagram since October, I think. And it was funny, we put out a call to say, would somebody like to chat with us? And I think Sarah was the first person to, I think Sarah was.
I think it was me.
I think it was Larissa.
Oh, that's right. It was Larissa. Then it was Sarah, because we talked to Larissa first on our podcast. Oh, that's right. We have a podcast too. We almost forgot about that. And again, same title, same name. But anyway, and then Jolene is with us more recently. But I have to say, I've gotten so much out of knowing all three of these women. The book recommendations you've made, the reviews that you write, all the content, all the wonderful, fun, funny stuff that you do, because I love your boys, Sarah, they're so cute. But anyway, so we're just so thankful that we've had this opportunity, because Sean and I just started this thing, and now we feel like we have really great Canadian friends. So thank you so much for joining us on our adventure.
Yeah, and we were learning the correct way and the wrong way to eat chips. So
that's right.
Which is probably not a Canadian American thing, for the record.
Right.
So today's book won in a vote of 4-1, which removed Son of a Trickster from the competition. And we have always been here by Samra Habib is the book that brings Canada into focus for 2020. And I'm curious, so do we want to do a round of applause to celebrate that it won? Yay. And what do we think about We Have Always Been Here winning the competition for this year?
Can I start? But I want to say something about Son of a Trickster, because the thing that I got most out of today's program was Dio's opening statement that she read. I told Shauna earlier today, if I had been sitting on that panel, because sometimes you can change your mind at the last minute. If I had been sitting on that panel, that is the book I would have voted for, hands down. And because of all the other conversations, I get it. But that 100%, based on what she said, I would have voted for that book to win Canada Reads.
So I have something to say about We Have Always Been Here winning as well, but I want to just echo that. I, being the one of the five of us who was championing Son of a Trickster, I didn't know I was feeling all week about the arguments being made for Son of a Trickster, and I think that Tia really hit it out of the park today with her opening statement and her closing statement. The statement she made about, isn't it time for an Indigenous storyteller to become the storyteller that is chosen for Canada Reads? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Especially because in the past, like, Indian Horse did not win that year. That was an incredible book. And I really related to what she was saying, not as an Indigenous person, but in the first storytellers of Canada, I think it's time that an Indigenous voice is the one that was chosen. So I think she did a really good job of that today. I will lead into the answering the question you asked, if you don't mind. Thoughts about We Have Always Been Here winning. I understood the points that were made for the book. It was not a favorite of mine. I felt like it was lacking in a few places. But the intersectionality was an excellent point. Amanda was an excellent point maker. I feel like there's been a lot of talk online about whether or not she had the best debate etiquette, but I will say that she was a strong voice and she did have really good points for the book. And ultimately, Son of a Trickster is being made into a CBC TV show already. It is getting excellent exposure. It has already had a second book. It has a third expected. And I am very happy to see that Samra and We Have Always Been Here is now going to get the exposure that comes with being the chosen Canada Reads book. I think she deserves the exposure, and I think the community deserves the exposure, so I'm glad it won in that respect. I'm disappointed Son of a Trickster didn't win because that was the one I was hoping for, but there are definitely reasons why We Have Always Been Here was picked.
Do you, Jolene or Sarah, do you want to chime in? Do you have any thoughts?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead, Sarah. Go ahead.
Obviously, I'm so super excited because I loved this book from the day I started reading it. And Shauna and Rebecca and I had some good conversations about this book really, really early on before, months ago. And so I'm really excited it won because it was my choice. But aside from that, I think the two books in the final, Son of a Trickster and We've Always Been Here, are so wonderful and they're so different. I think they were actually really well matched at the end because you weren't putting an Indigenous story up against an Indigenous story. I think it was really cool to see the discussions that were very different about both books. I'm also really thrilled that they were both BIPOC authors. I think that was really wonderful, and also defenders. So I really love that, and I really think this is a monument year for Canada Reads. So regardless of who came in first or who came in second, I was just so happy with how things went today because it matters. It matters obviously for the author. It didn't matter for me at the end because I think the program really won this year in general. First time a female defender defending a female written book, and they both happen to be people of color. So, or BIPOC, I guess, is the more appropriate term there. But so I'm just thrilled. It's made me really happy today.
Yay!
Just to follow that up, yeah, I was hoping that We Have Always Been Here would win today, and I did think that it would be in the final two, so I'm very happy about that. I will say that Dio did a great job today, though. I thought this was her best day of debating, and I thought she brought up some very, very important points. So my reason, I also like Son of a Trickster, so it was a win-win here. No matter who won, it was going to be a good thing. But I think I'm happy that it went to We Have Always Been Here, because there have been Indigenous books in the past in the top 5, whether they won or not. I mean, the top 5, you make the top 5, you're good to go. Right. So, I mean, I think it brings a lot of exposure to those books when you're into the top 5. But I can't say that I have ever heard a story like We Have Always Been Here with a queer Muslim woman telling that story. And so I think it was very unique in that way. And that's why I'm glad that it won out of the two, for sure. So.
Yeah, I would definitely be curious to read Summer Habib's next book in regards to, like, if she lives her life for another 20 years and writes another subsection, to see how her life is progressing. So I think that would be phenomenal to be able to glimpse into that part of her life. And like I said yesterday, I would love to see more about her photography and her photography influence on her life. So now I think what I want to do is I want to ask each of our participants to ask us a question, and we will go through and answer them, and that will round out our recap of the Canada Reads 2020. So let's see here. Why don't we have our winner, the competition winner? We'll have Sarah go first, and that will be your reward for championing We Have Always Been Here. And our recap.
I got a trophy in the mail today for something else, completely unrelated, and I was going to put it like right here on the shelf. I decided not to be that cocky. I'm furiously going through to find the wording for my question. Ooh, hang on. I am so sorry. I can't.
It's okay. And Sarah, what I'll have you do is you can choose who you want to answer in the order that you wish. So
I think I remember it. So my question was, thinking forward to the next competition, or, a couple years away, whatever you want, who's someone that you would love to see as either a defender or maybe an author to be brought into the competition that maybe hasn't been there before, or, something like that.
All right, so I'll go first. So I would pick Justin Bieber to be a defender.
Jolene?
I like your answer, actually, because it's somebody that you wouldn't expect, right? So I like that. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking more generally than specifically, and I thought, it's a literary competition. It would be very cool to have 5 other authors champion 5 authors. So, obviously they put out the long list of 15, books, so it couldn't be any of those authors, but we have tons of amazing Canadian writers that I think they could choose 5 people to champion. And I think the conversations would be different too. I think it would be an interesting change to what, I like how they have, it's all mixed up with different personalities and that kind of thing too. But I think the writers would be a good idea.
Yeah, I love that. Larissa.
So I have no idea for what author or book I would want to see on Canada Reads. There's just too many. And like, I was even thinking about, what books have I read recently that I really loved, and were they Canadian and all of this. But for defenders, I would love to see Dan Levy on Canada Reads, the Defender. Or the classic Canadian celebrity, Jonathan Torrens. I would love to see him too.
Oh, good. Oh, that's so
it would
good.
Be so good, right?
Yes.
I mean, like, everybody in our generation would be like, we'd watch it.
Okay, who is he? Because I don't know who he is. I know who Dan Levy is, but I don't know the other one.
Jonathan Torrance. He has a podcast right now called Taggart and Torrance, and he also wrote a book recently called Canadianity, which actually you might enjoy.
Okay. Was he in Trailer Park Boys?
He was. Yeah, he was J-Rock in Trailer Park Boys. But like that's what a lot of people know him for. But
He goes way back.
Anybody who grew up in like the 80s and 90s know him from like Street Sense and Jonavision. And then I'm pretty sure he hosted a game show for a really short amount of time.
Yep.
Yeah, and like that's what I remember him from Jonavision. So
I was in a cafe with him in Halifax, downtown Halifax one time. I went in a cafe and he was there with Candy Palmater. And I didn't say anything, but I like ran out and I was like, oh my God.
He walked past us once on the boardwalk and we were with like a stroller, like with this kid, and we were like, that was Jonathan Torrance. Yeah.
That's so good.
Another great Canadian personality that I would love to see on there is Ellen Page.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shauna, what do you think?
I think I'm going to say something.
You have the fly now.
I do have the fly now.
Yeah.
It is flying around. I'm trying to ignore it, but so I'm going to do something completely out of bounds, and this is never going to happen on Canada Reads, but I can hope.
They're your bounds, not ours.
So I'm a huge romance reader, and one of the Canadian authors that I love right now is Jackie Lau, and she does some hysterically funny romance, which you don't see very much of. And I think it would be so cool to have her on as a author for Canada Reads. Just to feel like different than the very deep, dark.
They're always so heavy, right? All of the books are always so heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's ever going to be a lighter year or not. Who knows?
No.
I don't think so.
I saw someone on Facebook, I think it was on Facebook, and they proposed, what about a poetry year or, something like that to change it up a bit.
Do I get to answer my own question?
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Oh, okay. My person is Jael Richardson. I think
Love
we
her.
can all know and love her. She in her recap today, which was really, really good, and she interviewed, I can't remember her name, the author of Boat People.
She did. She interviewed Shannon Bala yesterday.
Yeah, so she wrote Boat People.
Yeah.
And anyway, she mentioned that how much she would love to be a defender, and it just really got my wheel spinning. So yeah, broadcaster, author, Jael Richardson. I'd love to see her on in CBC. She's already on CBC. So
well, one of the things George said was that when we interviewed George Canyon, he had said that he wanted to be a defender and they were going to have him, but then he had to wait because a tour or something like that. And I think the same thing with Allie, when I think he thought there might be a chance that he would be a defender, but then he became the host. But so they plan, obviously they have to plan so far out just for people's schedules. So maybe she's been contacted already and we just don't know it.
She has so many great things to say about all the topics, and she, she's good at saying them quickly, and she, I think she'd be wonderful.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
So with the other book being in the competition today, we're going to have Larissa go next. And sadly, since Jolene, since you got voted off yesterday, we'll have you go after.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so my question, and it's actually not about today's debate either, but Canada Reads is all about bringing Canadian literature to the public, essentially, and talking about Canadian books. And so I would like to know from everyone, other than these 5 books that were talked about this week, because we did talk about them extensively, what is your favorite Canadian literature or Canadian written book? And Jolene, why don't you go first?
Okay, so when I saw that this was going to be asked, I was like, oh my goodness, I have 2 like shelves, 10 shelves of Canadian authors, and there's so many good ones. So in a way, I kind of have two answers. I love John Irving. So John Irving is up there, and he's now a Canadian citizen. And he wrote A Prayer for Owen Meany, which is one of my all-time favorite books. But if we were going to choose somebody who's Canadian born and also with the Indigenous background and to have Indigenous stories told, I would choose Richard Wagamese. He's one of my favorite authors, and I think that any of his books would be fantastic to promote. So
yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Rebecca, do you want to go next?
Okay, so I have, if I was going to do, and I've only read in the past, because it's hard for us to get these books, so I have to buy them, and quite frankly, I don't have that big of a budget for books, but anyway, so in the last year, if I was going to do nonfiction, I would do Wab Kinu's The Reason You Walk, which is just ripped my heart out. It was so beautiful, and I could not get over it. I loved it. I loved every word of it. And he was supposed to be in Sarnia, I can't remember, before the pandemic or during the pandemic or something. He was going possibly come and speak at an independent bookstore, and obviously that fell through. So I was really, really devastated, because I would love to hear him speak in person.
Awesome. Shauna, do you have an answer?
Yeah, and I'll keep mine short.
Sorry about that.
So I get most of my books from Rebecca, that's Canadian based, because we share them since it's so hard to get them here. But one, I'm going to say one that she hasn't read, and it's One Bed for Christmas by Jackie Lau. And the reason why I fell in love with it is the main male character is, one of his jobs is to dress up as a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and he does these shows. And it's just so hilariously funny how this professional woman is walking down the street, and she's going to meet up with her friend who's in this Tyrannosaurus Rex costume, and they have to stay together because she doesn't have any electricity in her apartment, and they have to make do with having one bed for during the Christmas time. But
And he sleeps in the costume, or what? I don't.
no, but he wears the costume at least 3 or 4 times in the book, and it's funny what occurs while he's in the costume. So
awesome. I love hearing about, I actually am not a big romance reader. It hasn't been something that's, because I just never really picked them up. I'm like a literary fiction reader. And I recently read, or just late last year, read romance that I picked up because people said it was funny, and I laughed so much. And then I was like, man, like I should totally read some of these sometimes. It's so light and fun. Like,
what was the title? Do you remember? Do you remember the title?
It was The Unhoneymooners.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
It's funny. It was like, I was impressed. It was really funny. Yeah. All right, Sarah.
Okay, so mine has been on Canada Reads. This is my favorite book. My favorite Canadian book, The Birth House by Amy McKay.
You took my answer.
I forgot. Okay, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm not changing it.
Keep going. We can both say it. It's amazing. It's my favorite. Go ahead.
It's worth it. It's really great. So I'm really interested in the matriarchal history of the birth experience, and this book takes place in my community, and it's right on the cusp of the introduction of modern obstetrics in my community. And I'm sorry about the buzzing. I'm hearing it too when my mic is on.
Keep going.
You guys can hear? Okay. Anyway, and it takes place during the time of the Halifax explosion. So it's at a really important time in our local history. And so the book it's fiction, but the author does live in the birth house, and it communicates really well what life was like here and what the people were like here at that time, and really still now. So it's beautiful and wonderful. And even if you're not interested in birth or midwifery, if you have any interest in rural communities and how people are there for each other, but also how small communities operate, where there is cattiness and anyway, it's great. I'm gonna keep it short.
Great, because I'm going to lead
I
off
told
that.
you guys have to read it.
So The Birth House is my pick too, and it's actually interesting because Jolene, you said if you want a Canadian author, is Canadian born, and Amy McKay is not Canadian born. She's an American who lives in Canada. She's a Canadian citizen now, but I actually love all of her work. The Birth House, The Virgin Cure, Witches of New York. Witches of New York was the one I was going to say after The Birth House. So good. And then most recently she wrote a memoir that is also, I really enjoyed it. It's a medical family history memoir, really good. But The Birth House I don't reread books very often, and it's one I've read 3 times. It is my absolute favorite Canadian book, and for all of the reasons that Sarah said. And you just really feel for all the characters, and to know that she constructed the story around a woman she discovered living in her house and finding like artifacts around her house, and then like there was a midwife who lived there, and so she just created the story around the bones that she had, right? So I love it. I think it's wonderful. I also I actually personally have a really hard time with this question. I've read a lot of Canadian literature, and also at the same time I like forget them all because I'm put on the spot, except like that one book. But The Break this year was also an incredible read and an important read, and a hard read. So I would recommend that one too, always. And I really loved The Marrow Thieves. I also read that this year and I loved it. Yeah, so I guess that's my answer to my own question.
That works out. So go ahead, Jolene, tell us what your question is.
Okay, so my question is that out of the 5 books from Canada Reads this year, if you could ask a question of any of the authors or a character, what would your question be and to who? And let's start with you, Shauna.
Ooh, yay, I'm excited because I would ask Jared for his weed cookie recipe.
That's a great.
I mean, it was famous, so that's a great question.
Right? It's super famous, and I am a huge baker, and I would love to be able to know how to make these weed cookies, because if I need people to do something for me, then that's how I'm going to get you to do it for me, is to make you a cookie and then convince you to do the thing I need you to do. Just saying. I don't know if that's how weed works or not.
It's all good. It's all good. That's great.
All of that.
Larissa, what question would you have for?
I was like, this is really hard. And then I thought of my question and I was like, this actually isn't hard at all. I would ask Cory Doctorow, how he decided on the 4 themes he did for his book. How did he narrow it down to those 4 themes? And B, is he surprised about the events of 2020 having published that book before 2020?
Yeah.
Because
Great.
It is bizarre. Yeah, like there is a pandemic and race riots.
Yes.
And the pandemic is leading to healthcare issues. Like,
yeah.
So the Black Lives Matter, the race riots, that stuff, I mean, absolutely, it's really apparent right now because the riots are ongoing. But that's not a new issue. Like, that's not, like, when I read the story, I was like, yeah, that's a current event. Like, even though the George Floyd, like, none of that had happened yet. The pandemic, though, like, we had SARS in 2002, or I don't know when SARS was, but it was like not coronavirus. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've had pandemics before. We had H1N1, but I still went to university. Like, we've had pandemics before, but never to this level. And that's what he wrote about. Like, it's just shocking.
Yeah, I hate to keep, because I'm not here to speak for him, but I am kind of speaking for him. But no, the thing about the pandemic one, what he said was, when we talked to him, was it was really about, he said there are all these people that are wealthy people who are building these bunkers. And that's kind of the thing that triggered it for him, was that he started to see, I think, more and more of that. And obviously the reason they would go underground, like do that would be a pandemic. So no, that's what I'm saying is I just think I think he's the most, well, I told him he's the most brilliant person I've ever spoken to in person. I don't, his brain, I don't even know how it functions, because I just think he's brilliant. I really do, but yeah.
Yeah, just fascinating. I just am wondering if he would be like, I'd be like, oh, look, all of these things have come to fruition.
Okay, Rebecca.
I would ask Jesse's grandfather that during the years that he could see Jesse struggling, if he regretted kicking him out of the house, and if he would have changed anything about that dynamic and how it all played out. Like, I don't, like, did he feel, I mean, he can't, I mean, it's not his fault, but if I'm not a parent or a grandparent, but, you know, still, it's not your fault, but you got to have some regret. And he was clear about saying, if you do this, you're out of this house. And then he did it, and then he didn't forgive him until he was basically on his deathbed. So I would just ask him that.
Great. These are good, guys. These are, wow, I'm impressed. Okay, Sarah.
So mine's for Cory Doctorow too. Larissa and I are like in sync tonight. So because the fourth novella, Mask of the Red Death, which was my favorite, is obviously inspired by Edgar Allan Poe's Mask of the Red Death. It's exactly parallel story. I would ask him if, since Poe is more or less the inventor of Gothic literature, if he has inspired any more of Cory Doctorow's writing. And I guess, and then to springboard from that, just what are his other literary influences? Where I find his styles really interesting in the way he constructed his novella and the themes and whatnot. So I just want to know, you know, who else influenced him, because it wasn't obvious to me from the other three stories.
Excellent, thank you. Very good. Okay, so the answer for me, or the question, I guess, for me is, I think I would ask, so mine is for We Have Always Been Here. I would like to know more about Samra's mother. And I think my question to Samra's mother would be, you know, there's like the development of how they kind of come to accept Samra. There must have been some kind of spiritual, you know, awakening there, or like, I would like to know how that came about, where they were able to accept who Samra is, and how they felt about, you know, Samra leaving home and all of those things, and just kind of how they are, how that came about. I would like to know more about that story. So I would ask her about that. Yeah.
That's awesome. So we do have a comment on our live feed from Colleen, and she says one of her favorite books is Voice of Rebellion. The author defended the boat people. So do any of you recognize that title?
I don't know. I know the boat people, but I don't know that one. No.
Do you know who wrote the boat people?
The boat people is Sharon Bala. Bala. It's the last name. She's lovely.
Yeah, I love that book.
I don't see her writing anything else. So we will move on to Rebecca's and my question. This is a question that I've been wanting to ask every single day, but I just haven't taken the opportunity to do so. So now I'm going to. Because I am so curious to see if you can narrow down your book to be only one word. And I think my answer for my book is cheating a little bit, but I also think it's like genius. Okay. So the question that I want to ask is, what is one word that describes your entire book? Okay. And I looked at the definition of my one word to make sure that it was what I wanted it to mean.
I did too.
So I will go ahead and start and say that my one word is radical.
When you said you were going to cheat a little bit, I said, I thought, I bet you she thinks it's radical.
I thought I would show you. I did put some extra effort into it by looking it up.
So funny. Oh my
So,
God.
all right, Jolene, what's one book that would describe small game hunting at the local Coward Gun Club?
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard. But I think the word that I am going to settle on is survival.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Yeah.
Okay. And Rebecca, what's one word that you would use to describe From the Ashes?
My word is luminous, because when I kind of looked it up to make sure, it's really about bringing light to the dark.
That's awesome. All right. Sarah, what is one word that would describe We Have Always Been Here?
Winner.
That's what I would have said.
We've heard this already today in the debates, but for me, it's the one word that really sums up the most important theme to me in the book, and why I think ultimately it is the most important, and that's intersectionality.
Awesome. Okay, and Larissa, that leaves you. What's the one word that you would use to describe Son of a Trickster?
So I didn't pre-think of this like I should have. I was like, I knew that you were gonna ask me, but like I didn't put the brain work in to think of one. So on the fly here, I just thought of a couple of different things. So I think I'm gonna settle on recovery, and not recovery from alcoholism, even though he does get clean at the end of the book. But there's also the recovery of himself, like not his addiction, but like him being his own person. He recovers from those toxic relationships, and he also like so the recovery from those relationships, like the ex, the mom, the girlfriend, recovery from his addiction, recovery to his sense of self, and of course recovery isn't a linear process. So even in Trickster Drift, you see him struggle again, but the road is still to recovery.
He also recovers like his culture and his spirituality. I think
Yes.
I think that's so important.
Like that, like at the beginning, he doesn't have that. And at the end he does. He also does recover a relationship with one of his grandmothers, and then loses that again because of finding who he is. But it's all kind of like a part of the process.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Really good, especially on the fly.
I was worried that you were going to cheat and use my answer too. That was a joke.
Especially on the fly.
Okay. Well, I think that really kind of wraps up our week with Canada Reads 2020. And
I believe it's over.
It is over. Can you believe it?
No.
So the great thing is, with it ending so soon, like in July, we only have 6 more months until the long list airs. So we don't have to wait as long for 2021.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we were unable to get Dio or Amanda to join us this evening. I'm sure that they are celebrating and or getting being consoled with their loss. But I do want to give big shout outs and thank yous to Akil Augustine for joining us on Monday, and George Canyon for joining us on Tuesday, and Elena Fender, but she goes as Elena Joy online, for joining us on Wednesday. So, and we want to thank you guys for tuning in. We're so happy to be able to provide this recap and get some great minds thinking from all across North America and about something that we love, Canada Reads. And now to the special announcement that we were talking about yesterday. Don't forget to, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be speaking with Ali Hassan next Tuesday.
Yay.
So join all 5 of us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to talk with CBC Canada Reads host, Ali Hassan, which I already said. So you should know who Ali Hassan is. During that chat, so this is like the big fireworks moment. During that chat, we will be doing a $50 Amazon gift card giveaway. So make sure that you're tuning in, okay? And finally, I want to leave off with, I want to do a special thank you to Jolene, Larissa, and Sarah for joining Rebecca and myself this year in recapping Canada Reads 2020. We couldn't have done it without you, and we really appreciate your time and energy and working with us through making this all work. So
And you made it so, I mean, you just took it to the next level and just made it so much more fun for us. So we thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for including us and for asking us. I think it's been a great, well, I think it's been a great time, and I love being with all of you. So it's been wonderful. So thanks for including us.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been just so much fun, and I'm so grateful for all my new friends.
Yay, same here.
I agree. And since they said something, I'll say it too. Thank you so much for including us. It was I said this earlier in the week, this was my first Canada Reads. So it was really fun. And it was really fun to recap and be able to talk through my thoughts. And here live on YouTube was not at all intimidating. Yeah, and it was really fun and cool and unique. And a lot of my friends were like, you always do such interesting things. And I was like, I just found these people on Instagram.
So it's
No,
not
you know,
Canada Reads, right?
what kills
No,
me,
not at all. I am so excited for next year.
Good.
but what kills me is, you know, when we put out the call and said, hey, if anybody out there wants to chat with us, and nobody did, and I thought, gee, like, I'm surprised that like Larissa was the only one, you know, and at the time, and then over time, I've started thinking about this because I've talked to others and said, oh, if you'd like to, and they go, no, I don't do that. And I think, you know, I think it's because stereotypically readers can sometimes be like introverts, right? And so I think, oh yeah, that's right. Maybe that's why a lot of them have just been like, no. So anyway, but I'm glad all 3 of you said yes.
me too. And I just want to follow, before we say goodbye, Colleen did find the book. The author is, oh gosh, I'm not going to be able to pronounce that. Mazda Jamelda.
Yeah.
Her family were refugees from Afghanistan, and when she went back to help women and girls, she's referred to as the orphan Oprah of Afghanistan.
She was a defender. Was it last year or the year before? Year before, I think.
For Sharon Doe, yeah, it's been 2019. 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, she was a defender.
She defended both people.
And she was going to write her own book too, I think. Yeah.
And then Deb says, thank you. I'm going to read all of these books, and she's already ordered them online.
Yay!
Good going, Deb.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
So with that, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and follow all these wonderful ladies on their Instagrams and their YouTubes and their websites. And finally, Canada Reads American Style podcast. And we will see you all later.
Bye.